And since the January 6th committee was formed, some Republican lawmakers have tried to discredit the panel through misinformation and far-right conspiracy theories. It happened again last week during a meeting of the House Judiciary Committee. Kentucky Republican Thomas Massie pushed a conspiracy theory about a man named Ray Epps. It is a baseless theory that claims Epps worked with the FBI to instigate the attack on the Capitol. That set off January 6th committee member Jamie Raskin, who called out Republicans.
It was vetoed by the cult leader, Donald Trump, who said he wanted no investigation at all. That's your guy. Donald Trump, he said he wanted no investigation. And so you pulled the plug on the investigation you originally advocated because Donald Trump didn't want it. Let's tell some truth.
Would you like
You're talking about truth and facts. I'm giving you the truth. I'm giving you the facts about it. And then when Speaker Pelosi said, well, in that case, the House of Representatives will conduct our own investigation, then again, you guys boycotted it because you wanted to put pro-insurrection members on the committee. And so we ended up with a bipartisan committee of people really interested in getting to the facts. And you know what? This is what you guys can't stand. America listened to it because we had real congressional hearings, unlike what goes on here with the temper tantrums and the diatribes. And too often our side gets pulled into what you guys are doing. But we had real hearings and 25, 30 million Americans watching because we told the truth about Donald Trump's assault on democratic institutions and the right to vote in America.
You know, Jonathan Lemire, the first part of Jamie Raskin's conversation there, he explains how they had come to an agreement with Republicans. They had actually sent their proposals to Republicans who were taking part in the process. And then, as he said, right as the clip began, the cult leader, as he called Donald Trump, the cult leader vetoed it. And this is just a self-owned by Republicans. They had a chance to actually participate in this process. And they said no to a bipartisan, bicameral investigation when you had Joe Manchin really trying to apply pressure on Republicans who he was trying to work with, saying, come on, this is something you don't play politics with. You all should be involved in this for the betterment of the Senate, the House, this country. They refused. And then, of course, you had House Republicans and Democrats talking together, working together, and Democrats passing proposals to Republicans who would send proposals back to Democrats. And they had actually agreed to work together. And then Donald Trump vetoed it. And so here we are with Republicans on the outside of this process and complaining about it when time and time again they had an opportunity to participate and they just refused to do it. So they turned this entirely over to the Democratic Party and Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger.
Yeah, there are two distinct moments where Republicans were part of the process and bailed. First in the Senate, where it looked like this was going to be a bipartisan, bicameral probe into January 6th, and Mitch McConnell pulled the plug, in part because of out of fear of what Donald Trump might do. And other Republicans followed suit, the Ted Cruz's, Josh Hawley's of the world, and the Senate backed out. So suddenly, no more Senate. It was going to only be in the House, and House Speaker Pelosi put together this select committee and nominated some Republicans, said we want slots for Republicans. But when she went to Kevin McCarthy and said, and this is all detailed in my book, like, who do you want here? He picked a bunch of election deniers, the Jim Jordans of the world, 2 or 3 of his ilk. And Pelosi was like, this will not stand. We cannot have people who tried to decertify the election, who have stood with Trump, who backed the insurrection. We're not going to make them part of this committee. So she said, well, we could do it Democrats only, but we'd prefer it to be bipartisan. The 2 Republicans she got, Cheney and Kinzinger, and the 2 of them in many ways have really run this process. And that's what's been so powerful here. The only Republican voices we are hearing, those 2 lawmakers who both stood up to Trump, and Republicans who some within Trump's own administration who have all testified to what he did, painting damning accounts of his behavior leading up to and on January 6th. So that has not only made it effective arguments for the American people, but yes, Trump and his allies have been shut out of the process, and we know Trump has spent months stewing at this, blaming others, McCarthy, McConnell, take your pick, for sabotaging, he says, his efforts to defend himself, and he believes that's why it's such a one-sided proceedings. Of course, it's not one-sided. They're dealing in facts. This is what happened. American people have been captivated by it. We'll see it again tomorrow.
Well, and it's facts versus conspiracy theories. Gene Robinson, that's one of the things Willie and I have talked about, the frustration for some time, that friends that we've known, very educated people with advanced degrees, they'll push a conspiracy theory about the rigged election.
God.
I've been patient. Mika knows, has seen me doing this with friends. I'll patiently walk my friends through it. I will give them links to Wall Street Journal stories, Fox News stories, New York Post stories. And then they'll go, okay, well, what about... Then they'll go to a COVID conspiracy.
They won't get it.
Then they'll get it, and then they'll move to a COVID conspiracy. And then I'll patiently walk them through that. Then they'll go, well, what about the Russia hoax? And so it's whack-a-mole. And I bring that up just to say Republicans are doing this on the national level. You have this Ray Epps story that is a conspiracy theory, a complete lie that has been pushed by members of the Trump media, pushed by sitting members of Congress. They know it's a lie. It's just like the same lies that they were pushing about the IRS, where you have, is he perhaps the most senior Republican member in the United States Senate, saying after news was breaking badly for Donald Trump about this investigation into stolen documents, you actually had a senior member of the United States Senate talking about IRS employees going to his home state with AR-15s, kicking down doors and killing people. And poof, it was proven to be a lie. I'm sorry, let me just add one more. You had the investigation, and thank God I've forgotten his name already, but the dud of the investigation that was going to prove that the FBI acted horrifically. Who was the guy? He just wrapped up his investigation a couple of weeks ago. I can't believe I've forgotten his name already. Durham. It was Durham. There's a Durham investigation. Do you remember that long, hot weekend of right-wing pro-Trump stories about it's true? Hillary Clinton really did spy on Donald Trump. And then 3 days later, another lie. Just made it up out of whole cloth. But there's never a reversal. There's never an I'm sorry. Instead, they just do what Willie and my friends do. They move on to the next conspiracy theory. It's whack-a-mole. And so here, they're lying about this guy named Ray Epps, just like they were lying about 2 volunteers that were counting votes in Georgia, destroyed their lives. They lie with impunity. They lie without consequences. And they're doing it again here on the highest level of American politics.
Yeah, it keeps happening, and this whole problem of deliberate disinformation is a threat. It's a moral threat to the very idea of democracy, because you need to have a common set of facts. You need to have a common narrative, and then argue about what it means and what we should do and this and that. And they've just completely done away with that. And it's that period is fascinating. That the earlier discussion, that period between January 6th and the next month or two, when the Republican Party had the opportunity to come clean, had the opportunity to say, what were we thinking? What were we doing? Let's get back to the democratic process as we knew it. What happened on January 6th is just, unacceptable. We need an investigation. We need to get back to our tradition of democracy in this country, and a bipartisan, bicameral investigation will be part of it. And you have to look back at that period, and you have to blame not just Kevin McCarthy, but Mitch McConnell and all the Republicans who decided, no, in the end, we're going to stick with Donald Trump because we think that's our route back to power. They chose power over democracy, and after making that decision in that period, that has sort of led us to where we are now, where one of our two political parties does no longer believes in democracy as we have known it for these past 2 centuries.